We are live.
Live. Okay. We'd like to open this meeting of the planning board for February 22, 2021 via Zoom at 7 p.m. Mr. Latanzi, could you read the disclaimer?
Absolutely.
Oh, maybe we should do roll call first.
I can do that too. Is Jeannie in? I don't see Jeannie. All right, I'll do the roll. Leo Pisano?
Yeah.
Michael O'Connor?
Yeah.
Cheyenne Rangel?
Yes.
George D'Angelo?
Yeah.
Frederick Cafaso?
Here.
James Tarr?
Here.
And Phil Mastrocola.
Now, could you read the disclaimer, please?
Sure can. For the meeting of February 22nd, 2021, in response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12, 2020, the Everett Planning Board shall be meeting remotely until further notice. The audio conferencing application Zoom will be used for this purpose. An online link and telephone access number will be provided on all meeting agendas and also on the city's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the city's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. This application will permit the public to access and participate in future board meetings and hearings. Instructions for joining meetings in this manner will be provided on the city and city clerk's websites. We extend our thanks for your understanding and participation in this matter, which is intended to keep members of the board and the public safe.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
First order of business, please.
First order of business, Mr. Chairman, is old business number 1 is site plan review for 2nd and Vine Street. This is a proposal to demolish the existing structures on the premises located at 12 and 24 Vine Street and 337, 349 2nd Street, Everett, Mass, to construct a new 6-story building with 320 residential units, of which 16 are proposed to be affordable, with approximately 4,000 square feet of ground floor retail space, along with a parking garage. The premises is bounded by 2nd Street, Boston Street, Vine Street, and 3rd Street, and is designated by Assessor's Department as parcels numbers K05-000067, K05-000068, and K05-000176, and is located in the Commercial Triangle Economic Development District. This matter is continued from October 13th, 2020.
October 13th, 2020. Didn't they meet with us last?
They did, yes, but it was originally continued and has been continued every time.
So the original continuance came from October.
Yes,
Subsequently has been continued like 4 times.
maybe even more.
Maybe even more.
All right, the proponents, are they here?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Johanna Schneider. I'm project counsel for 2nd and Vine. I'm here with John Block, the developer. As Matt hinted, we are here to request that the board grant us a continuance to its next hearing. Within the last few days, we have received some feedback from the board's traffic and civil engineering peer reviewers, and we would like some more time to work through and respond to those comments.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion.
To what meeting would we be continuing to?
Our next meeting is March 8th, 2021, and then the one after that is March 22nd.
We'd like to continue to March 8th if that's possible.
Okay, well, then we'll make a motion for continuance until March 8th for site plan review for 2nd and Vine Street at 7 o'clock on Zoom.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to continue 2nd and Vine Street proposal until March 8, 2021, 7 p.m. via Zoom. Roll call vote.
Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangel,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes, motion has been continued.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next order, please.
Next order of business is number 2 under old business. This is a site plan review for 48 Nichols. This is a proposal for the redevelopment, including the demolition of an existing single-family house and the construction of a new 3-story, 6-unit residential building located at 48 Nichols Street, that being a parcel of land referenced by Assessor's Department as M0-08-0000178. This matter was continued from November 10th, 2020. And about 2 hours before this meeting, the applicant owner of the property did request a continuance.
Did he give a time frame for continuance?
He did not. He said that he would be unable to make this meeting. He would like a continuance, and that there is a possibility that he might be submitting a redesign. If he does that, I'm unsure as to when he would have that done by. He didn't really give much clarification.
So can we anticipate, only just to cover our bases in case he is ready on that 8th, to request it till the 8th? That way, if it has to be continued again, the continuance goes.
Yep.
All right, can we have a motion, please?
Have a motion for continuance of site plan review 48 Nickel Street until March 8th, 2021 at 7 o'clock on Zoom.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to continue 48 Nickel Street until March 8, 2021, 7 p.m. via Zoom. Roll call vote, please.
Leo Pisano,
Yes,
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangel,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes, motion has been continued. Next order.
Next order of business, Mr. Chair, is item number 3 under old business. This is an ordinance amendment for resident stickers. This is to amend section 18-149, the citywide resident sticker regulations, and section 18-150, applying for a resident sticker, of the revised ordinances for the city of Everett to revise the eligibility for resident parking stickers for new large residential developments. This matter was referred to the planning board for recommendation by the Traffic Commission and the Everett City Council. This matter was continued from January 25th, 2021, and I can report that the Traffic Commission has reported back to the planning board unanimously favorably.
All right, what's the pleasure with the board? Any questions?
yeah.
Anybody out there in,
there?
anybody out there in Zoom land like to comment?
Jay Monty from the transportation planner is raising his hand.
Yeah, Jay Monty from the Planning Department, Transportation Planner. So again, I think we reviewed the content of this ordinance the last time. So again, first I want to thank you all for approving the TDM ordinance the last meeting. And this goes sort of hand in hand with that as we sort of create a mechanism for developers to, I'll say, right size their parking. We also want to make sure they're not putting a burden on city streets and street parking. So this ordinance change effectively restricts any new project to a number of resident stickers that is equivalent to the amount of street frontage that they have. So it's really trying to create a more measured system by which we distribute resident stickers so that we're not oversubscribing the resident sticker program going forward. So as Matt mentioned, this got unanimous approval from the Parking and Traffic Commission with, they had 2 recommendations. One was they suggested adding a fine structure. So if somebody does get caught, either selling a resident sticker permit for a fee, which is not allowed under the ordinance, or if they abuse it in some other way, that there's a fine component to that. And the second recommendation was just to better define what we were counting as frontage. So because we're under the ordinance, we'd be distributing stickers based on the amount of street frontage. It is asked that we provide a very clear definition of what frontage is. Is it, if you're on a corner lot, is it both, the frontage on the main street and the frontage on the side street, or is it just the front? So, the administration agrees with both of those, that we will look to see if we can institute a fine structure with that. And I believe the intent, again, because we're trying to just create a system that equitably uses the street frontage, I think we would use any street that abuts the property, unless folks here have other thoughts on that. But either way, even if you counted, if they were on a full block and you used all 4 streets, the number of stickers that they would get is still far below what would be allowed under today's current guidelines.
But that's just what we don't want to have happen, that they use all four sides of their lot to gain more access to these resident stickers. That frontage should be defined as your entrance to the building, your mail address, just as your house, your frontage on the street. There's a project coming before us in a short, the next one, Bow Street. And if you read his narrative, he describes how he has so much frontage on Bow Street. And right now, he's not going to come under this ordinance, but had he come under it, he's using a huge lot and only a small little project. You understand, Jay?
Mhm.
He's asking, he's got, it's only 6 residential units, but he got 400 feet, I think, of frontage on Bow Street.
Okay.
And that's the smallest section that he has. If he
Mm.
were to go up one of the other streets, he has a whole lot more. So again, I brought that up the other night. I think everything else in the amendment was basically sound except that frontage. You
Okay.
can't leave it open like that. You can't leave it that you can pick where you want. They have to be more definitive, or maybe at the discretion of the city council. If they came before us or whoever for site plan review, then maybe the planning board would decide where your frontage is.
Mhm.
So it has to be limited. It has to be
Okay.
limited.
So your suggestion would be to limit it simply to the address frontage, or as otherwise determined by the planning board?
I would think that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but at least, I mean, just this one building alone down there, he's got enough frontage that he could give a resident sticker to everybody in the building. Of course, it says in the amendment not to exceed the total amount of the building, obviously the parking. But he could have enough frontage down there that he gives everybody a sticker. That's not the intent here,
Right.
you know, so that little loophole's got to be plugged.
Okay. No, I would agree with that. If you guys want to pass that as a proposed amendment, we'll carry that forward.
Okay,
I would say if that it becomes an amendment, the amendment should be voted on.
That's correct.
as corrected this evening. With the correction to follow.
So you could have a vote or entertain a motion for the amendment itself, and then you could vote on the piece totally as amended, but those would be two separate votes.
That's correct.
Well, But he's not gonna amend it tonight, are you, Jay? You're not gonna come up with a
So,
solution
I
tonight?
don't know, I can amend it without doing so at the council. So I think what would happen is we would come to the council, we would, and Smith can correct me if I'm wrong. We would take your recommendations, we'd say we agree with them and would also recommend these amendments upon adoption. So I think that's how we would handle it.
Okay. And then again, because it's amended, because it's not cast in stone. It can be changed. If we all of a sudden, we see it's not working, we can always change it.
Sure.
Correct, Jay?
Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
fine. Yep, okay.
So the chair will entertain a motion then.
Make a motion for favorable action to accept.
Wait.
the ord-
Do you want the amendment? You want the amendment first?
Yes, the ordinance amendment for resident stickers, right.
Okay, the amendment to the residential ordinance, correct? The
Well,
amendment part defining frontage.
Well, he can't define frontage because he's not explaining it to us tonight. That's just.
You just did.
No, I think it has to be, you grant the ordinance amendment for the residential sticker as is, and then he's to go to front of the council and develop the request for frontage.
So I could be wrong.
Do you want us to?
I think you can define it here, Leo, and as a, and whether it has to be an amendment or just a recommendation, I'm not sure, and maybe Robin can chime in. Because I do want to carry your recommendation forward and have it implemented, when the ordinance passes.
Jay, we want to complete.
Exactly,
We want to complete the way we want it to be read.
exactly, yeah,
And that would be the amendment to the amendment of the zoning ordinance.
right,
So Leo,
Make
you
a motion.
understand?
Oh, yeah, I get you. Yeah,
Defining frontage as
yeah,
the street address of the property.
yeah, yeah.
Is
Okay.
that correct, Jay?
As street frontage or otherwise defined by the planning board. So if you
Jay,
want
I'm
to-
not, I guess I have a question. I don't want to step in, but about the otherwise defined by the planning board, because
Yeah.
this is, if I'm right, this is a general city ordinance.
Yep,
And so the planning board's just making a non-binding recommendation now, but what opportunity would they have to later define the frontage?
well, I
Not
guess during site
everything.
plan approval, but maybe that's not actually a. It's a good question.
I mean, I wonder if that opportunity is going to be there, if it, I don't know that it's helpful to just say, or as otherwise defined by the planning board.
I guess the thought was any new project is going to be in front of the planning board. So through that process.
Not every project.
But this only pertains to large-scale projects, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I guess my only comment on that is that you're gonna want a specific definition. It's gonna need to be uniform for everyone. It can't be, defined on a project by project.
I'm fine doing it without the planning board piece, and if everybody else is, we just do the frontage as defined by the address.
I think the street address
Yeah,
is the frontage.
yep, that's fine.
Just for
All right.
clarification, Jay, is that the building square footage on the street or the lot square footage?
It's the linear footage along the street. So if your lot has, 100 feet along Broadway, we're using that as the frontage distance from which we derive the number of spaces or stickers, I guess.
Even if the building is only half of that, so long
Correct.
as.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the lot size.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, Leo, now?
So we're just gonna make an amendment, the ordinance amendment, and then
Then we
make a
vote on
favorable action for the amendment
of the ordinance.
of the ordinance, correct? Would that be
Right.
the way you want to do it?
First, it's the amendment to the amendment of the ordinance.
Right, so we'll make a motion for favorable action for an amendment to the ordinance amendment for residential stickers as far as the definition of frontage is concerned, as described by Jay Monty this evening.
Uh-uh.
Well, he described it,
No, it's got to be the frontage of the building.
yeah, but what is the frontage is what Jay just
The street
described.
address.
Okay, you want to use the street address?
That's what we're
so then we'll
discerning
make a-
tonight.
Then we'll make a motion for favorable action for an amendment to the ordinance amendment that the frontage be the street address of the lot.
Right.
Second the motion.
A motion has been made and seconded for the amendment to the amendment of the parking ordinance for the frontage being defined as the street number of the property.
Roll call.
Okay? Roll call vote?
Leo Pisano,
Yes,
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangle,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes. Now on the amendment, please.
now we'll make a motion for favorable action for the ordinance amendment residential stickers.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded for the ordinance amendment for residential stickers. Roll call vote, please.
Leo Pisano,
Yes,
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangle,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes. Motion has passed.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time and energy on this.
Thank you, Mr. Monty,
Thanks, Jay.
for understanding us all.
I can be confusing too, so
never saw that.
Next order, please.
Order of business, Mr. Chairman, is item number 4 under old business. This is a site plan review and special permit for 141-151 Bow Street. This is a proposal to convert a portion of an existing structure into 6 residential apartment units. The property at 141-151 Bow Street, Everett, Mass. is a parcel located in the Lower Broadway Multifamily Residential LBMFR district that is currently occupied by 2 industrial buildings. The applicant, DAG Realty Trust, proposes to convert the second floor of the existing structure located at 151 Bow Street, containing 5,625 square feet, from a vacant space into 6 residential apartments. The 6 units will be comprised of 4 2-bedroom and 2 1-bedroom units, and the interior of the building will be completely renovated as part of the proposal. The premises is located, or is approximately 57,425 square feet and is currently home to 4 commercial tenants and is designated as assessor's parcel number H0-03-000046. This matter was continued from January 11th, 2021.
Thank you. Is the proponent here, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Paul Delory. I'm representing the applicant. I'm joined this evening by John Crowell, who's on Zoom with us. And I thought that the applicant himself would join. He's not yet here, but we can go forward. I think he'll join afterwards. This matter is before you, as Mr. Lattanzi read, for not only approval as the permit granting authority for site plan approval, as well as your traditional role to approve site plan review on this parcel. This matter had been before you about 3 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, regarding a much more dense project of 16 units. It's now been reduced just to 6 units in the building, and there's been just significant changes to the building. I'm only recently involved in this, and I worked with Mr. Crowell to make some revisions that I thought would be a better look for the building and more acceptable to the board itself. This building is part of as the advertisement mentions, part of an industrial complex, but it's the front section of the industrial complex. It's located in a building that has 2 floors, and then the front section drops down to a single floor. The original plan was to use all of that floor space for residential units, and now only the top floor space will be used for residential units, and that amounts to about 5,600 square feet. The project comes to you today with compliant zoning. It's compliant as to use in the multifamily area. It's compliant as to height, setbacks, frontage, minimum lot dimensions, minimum lot area per dwelling, minimum open space, and it does have compliant parking. If you take a look at the plans that were submitted, and I apologize for the lateness, but we were revising these right up until they were submitted. If you look at Plan L1 that was submitted, it will show you that the project requires 10 parking spaces. It does have 10 parking spaces. The Section 30 also requires that for every 10, there be a guest space. There is a guest space, which is also a handicap space. It does provide for a dumpster access, snow removal access. And with those items, it is compliant. There is also landscaping shown on the plan. And as you can see, there'll be a landscaping island. There will be landscaping along the front of the building, as well as the installation of a new sidewalk, which will run from Bow Street all the way to the rear of the structure. I know that in the past, that was one of the concerns, that there would be a sidewalk in that location, and there will be. The access to the building will be strictly from Bow Street, and the exit from the building will be on Ashland to ease any potential traffic flow. Although I don't see that, that if you look at the day trips that have been calculated by Mr. Crowell, it's not an awful lot of day trips. This is, of course, near the intersection with Beecham Street. This particular applicant owns a lot of the buildings down there. And as you're probably familiar with it, on Beecham Street, there's a 52 unit under construction, and there'll be a lot of mixed use properties in that area planned. In this traffic pattern, by the way, if you look at the calculations in terms of sewage flow estimates and traffic, there's very little impact to the area down there. I mean, it's an area, we're all familiar with it. It's a mixture of detached multifamily houses, commercial buildings, industrial buildings. For many years, it was just simply industrial zone when there just wasn't too much care taken to what was put there. But certainly now, the intent and the purpose of the ordinance is to convert certain sections of that for residential use. In fact, the purpose in Section 1 for this particular use says, and I'm quoting, in residential districts to encourage a broad range of medium density residential development that provides housing options and choices for current and future residents of Everett. And that would seem to be certainly what this will address. And like any special permit, this building now, all of the industrial buildings in this address are really non-conforming because it's now in a residential area. And any non-conforming use can be converted or extended. And the irony is that it's not being converted or extended to have another non-conforming use, but it's being extended and converted to make it a conforming use, which is residential property. And any special permit can be granted where there's a showing that it won't be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use. And I think that I would argue very, very strongly that you have a residential use, which an industrial use really, that is really vacant right now, and it would allow 6 residential units in there. I don't think that the impact that would be argued too seriously that would simply deteriorate from the neighborhood in any extent. So I would suggest that with regard to the building itself, the 2-story building is all masonry. What's planned for that is that's going to be completely repointed, washed, and dressed as far as the residential portion. As you come forward towards the 1-story masonry block building, that's going to, again, be power washed and painted. The entrance to this building is on the side of the building facing the parking spaces, so the person can just simply walk out to the car without going over any other part of the whole complex there. On the roof, there'll be 4 lights, down lights for safety at night. There'll also be 2 directional sconces, which will accent the building and dress it a little bit. Secondly, if you look at the building itself, around the middle of the building, which separates the first floor from the residential unit, there's a wooden band, which right now is pretty rotten. It's rotted over time and falling apart. That's going to be replaced with a composite band and somewhat of an architectural detail that will also contain downlights, LED downlights, to give the building a little bit more effect. The front of the building, again, as I said, will be block. And if you look at page A1 on the plan that was submitted, you have the apartments. There'll be 4 two-bedroom apartments and 2 one-bedroom apartments, utilizing the entire top floor of that building. When you're looking at this in terms of your permit granting authority, again, the statute for this area, and I think what the intent was eventually to convert this to either mixed use or residential, but to get away from the heavy industrial history down there. And the special permit in section 10 talks about your consideration. Is the proposal in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance? I think clearly it is. Is it compatible with existing uses and development patterns in the neighborhood? And I think, yes, the answer to that is again. Will it not? It will not create a nuisance to the neighborhood, and I've already discussed how I think that is the case as well. It will not create undue traffic congestion. Very little traffic in and out. If you look at the calculation by Mr. Kroll in terms of the number of day trips and peak trips, it's 6 apartments, which are very handy to public transportation. It says it will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system. And again, if you look at the sewer analysis that Mr. Kroll has put into the plan, you'll see that there's very little impact on the existing use. And then again, in closing, again, in the site plan approval capacity, it's not detrimental to the health or welfare of anybody there. It's not injurious to the use. It will not impede the efficient, orderly, or normal development of the property. So I think for all of these reasons, I asked the board to consider the approval on this. I think that this is another small step in the conversion of this old, heavily industrial area. I mean, when we think of what was there at one point, the zoning, as I said, was kind of hodgepodge. You'd have a multifamily house next to a body shop, next to a scrap metal yard, next to a bungalow with the roof collapsing, and all of that is slowly transitioning. You can see with the building now on Beecham underway, with this small building. I know that my own personal knowledge, I know that there are other plans for additional buildings down there. And I think that this would be a beneficial upgrade for the area. I'd be happy to take any questions. Mr. Crowell is also on the Zoom with us. If you have any questions for the architect, I'd be happy to answer. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Delory. Any questions of Mr. Delory?
Just a couple. The in your narrative, it says, special permits, and you checked off no, that you don't need any special permits. And you could probably prove me wrong, but according to the zoning, the lower Broadway,
Excuse me, Mr. Bazzano, can you just tell me what you're looking at so I can look at it with you?
what I'm looking at right now, Mr. Delory, is the zoning ordinance of the city.
Yes,
I don't know if you have a copy of that.
I
And what I'm
do.
looking at is I'm looking at page 70,
Okay,
which is the appendix A, use regulations, proposing zoning amendment.
okay.
And in the district you're in down there, which is the Lower Broadway residential multifamily,
Okay,
and if you're gonna put a multifamily residential in there, it calls for a special permit.
it certainly does. I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Mr. Bazzano, if I may,
Yeah,
when I filled that out, I was
Yeah.
under the understanding that that was asking if we needed a special permit from the zoning board.
okay,
That
okay,
was my intent of filling that out. I do realize we need a special permit from your board.
you do, okay, very good. So we're gonna change that to yes then, and
Yes,
so the special permit they'll be asking for is the one that I just mentioned, Matt, correct? Okay, fine.
That's
Yes.
Very simply, you're required to put one bike spot for a bicycle down there. Okay, again, that's in the ordinance, page 81, if you look it up. It'll ask you for every 10 parking spots, you need one for a bicycle. So stick a pole down there with a hook on it so they can hang their bike on it. And there's also a requirement that you're supposed to put a fence up in the back of your parking lot, so as they pull in, the headlights don't bother the abutters next door. There aren't really many abutters down there, so I guess we'll leave that open. It doesn't seem to fit here. It's just a very large lot down there. So
It's pages, I don't know which one lines up.
that's probably about the only questions I have on the whole project. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I just clarify, this is Robin Stein from KP Law. Following up on Mr. Pisano's question, can we just clarify the exact special permits that are being sought? I agree that there's a special permit for multifamily under the ordinance. It sounded like the applicant was discussing another special permit having to do with a alteration of use. Can we just clarify?
No, I mean, if I can just respond, Ms. Stein.
Thank
It's- We are seeking justice, we are seeking the special permit required under the ordinance, even though it's a multifamily district. The planning board still must grant a special permit to allow multifamily usage, obviously to control what's there. We are seeking that as a special permit. I might have misunderstood. I was trying to make the point that the board is really wearing kind of two hats tonight. They're wearing the special permit granting authority hat for that permit under section 30 of the ordinance. And they're wearing their site plan review hat that they would typically use for approval of the site plan itself. There really is only one special permit being sought.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Appreciate it.
And Robin, how do we want to define the special permit? We have to give it a name? We
Well,
want to allow a
I believe you're correct. It's a special permit for multifamily. Just what
Okay.
you said earlier.
okay.
Any other questions?
I don't know if Matt has an update. I don't know that, given when these plans came in, he's had an opportunity to get any department feedback yet.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of feedback. Jay isn't on anymore. So Jay looked at it briefly. He said from what he reviewed, he likely wouldn't need any traffic or a traffic peer reviewer, sorry. And Julius, our city engineer, said, again, with the scope of the project and what's being proposed, likely wouldn't need an engineer or a stormwater peer reviewer. That said, we do have Robin and Joe on this call. So I would ask, or at least pose to the board, if a 53G account were to be created, it wouldn't have to be nearly as high as past projects where we typically do 25 to 35,000 set aside under the 53G. I would probably be able to say that 5,000 would be able to cover it, with the understanding of if more is required, that it could be requested. But I think 5 would be a suitable number to start with.
You okay with that, Mr. Delory?
Yes.
Anybody out there in Zoom land has any questions or comments of this?
I see none in the chat. I see none in the video.
Thank you, Mr. Latanzi. Then we can entertain a motion.
Well, I guess we'd make a motion to allow a special permit for multifamily for,
I don't know that we're ready to have a motion on the application yet. I think we were just discussing the departments would give their feedback on the project.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but can't we take them separate? We can, can we okay the special permit? But then if you say, hold on the site plan review, or do you want to combine them?
I mean, I guess you could, but you don't have any feedback yet from departments at all. You might
No, I know it. I was talking to Matt earlier on, especially the fire department, where that space between the front of the building and the parking is only 20 feet.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I leave it to you, but I would think it would be probably cleaner to vote the special permit and the site plan at the same time. We can prepare you a decision, like we normally would, so you'd have something in front of you. Perhaps tonight you could just vote to request the 5,000 in peer review, and then unless there's anything else, continue it to the next meeting, and hopefully we'll have all the comments back by then. We can work on a draft decision.
I could roll it all into even the 5,000 roll on into the next meeting. Okay. You want to vote for the 5,000 tonight, or do you want to roll that into the whole package?
No, I think it makes sense to vote the peer review now, because that way, if in addition to legals, anything needs to be looked at out of house between now and the next meeting, the funds will be there to do it. You know, if they have any questions for Zach or whomever, the money will be there to cover it before the next meeting.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to, for the applicant to set aside or give to the city $5,000 for a peer review for 141, 151 Bow Street.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded for the applicant to set aside $5,000 for peer review for 141, 151 Bow Street. Roll call vote.
Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangle,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
yes,
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes. Now the chair will entertain a motion for continuance.
Make a motion for continuance of site plan review and special permit 141, 151 Bow Street for continuance till March 8th, 2021 via Zoom.
7 p.m.
7 PM.
And could I just ask the
7
chairman,
p.m.
may I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please, Mr. Delory.
So the continuance, what, is just to entertain comments from the various departments? Is that the purpose of
It
it?
is correct, so that we can make a
Yep.
justifiable decision.
Okay, that's fine. So in other words, whatever public hearing aspect of it now, we're past that, correct?
No, the public hearing's still open.
It's still open for comment?
Yes.
Will it stay open until the next meeting?
The board normally keeps the public hearings open until about when they're ready to vote the decision, so that if there's any back and forth they need to have with you, the applicant, after they get back the department comments, they can.
Right, but that wouldn't be really, with all due respect, part of the public. I'm representing the applicant. I'm talking about if we get 50 people next meeting and they want to speak on it, at some point, we have to close the public hearing on this.
So, again, my recommendation would be that if the board is going to entertain any back and forth with the applicant, the same as the public, they would keep the public hearing open.
Okay, I respectfully disagree, but whatever the pleasure of the board is, I have another matter on that night, so it's not an inconvenience for me to come on that night again.
Thank you. So did we made that motion and seconded it? Is it not correct? Do we get a roll call vote?
The motion was made, it was not seconded.
Second the motion.
Now the motion has been made and seconded to continue 141, 151 Bow Street till our next meeting, March 8th, 7 PM via Zoom.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, please.
Leo Pisano,
Yes,
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangle,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes, motion has been continued.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, please.
Next order of business, Mr. Chairman, is the first item under new business. This is an application by the 600 Holding LLC for an endorsement of an approval not required in A&R plan for 596 602 Broadway or 600 Broadway. This is a proposal to combine two existing lots into one lot meeting frontage and area requirements. The applicant therefore submits said proposal for a determination and endorsement that planning board approval under the subdivision control law is not required.
Okay. And who,
well, I guess we'd ask the question, is that true? Matt?
From everything that I've reviewed, that our engineer and building departments have reviewed, yes.
Okay,
any other questions or comment out there? Hearing
I do
none.
know that the applicant, John Taco, is here. I don't know if there are questions for him, but he is here.
I think he's exhausted all his answers.
there he is.
You stole the show, Matt.
I try.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion for favorable action for the application by the 600 Everett Holding LLC for endorsement of an approval not required plan for 596 602 Broadway.
Second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded to, for approval for 600 LLC, holding company, whatever, for the property located at 596 602 Broadway. A&R not required. Roll call vote.
Leo Pisano,
Yes,
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangle,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Yes, motion has passed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
See you, John.
Have a great night.
Next order.
That is it for the orders. I believe, and Jeannie can correct me if I'm wrong, there will be a few sets of minutes before you during the next meeting for approval, but I think right now there are no minutes before the body.
Hearing no other issues, the chair will entertain a
just one question, Matt, the proposal for the residential sticker has to go before the city council yet?
It has to go before the city.
Okay, I'm all set, thank you. Thank you.
It will
Mr.
go
Chairman.
before the city council with the amendments proposed and with favorable recommendation from both traffic and from planning.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to
For-
adjourn.
Oh, I didn't ask that, Leo. Well, thank you very much, Leo.
What other motion you
You
got?
jumped right on that one, Leo.
I think we set a new record here tonight, so.
Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded for adjournment. Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure can. Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangle,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Chairman Cafaso.
Well, I like to go on for a little longer, but I'm going to vote yes. The meeting